What's up, beautiful people? Today we're going to be checking out President Paul Kagame of Rwanda and President Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana. They are sending strong message to Africa during the Summit of Climate Change.
Every year, the world is reminded of the real and growing threat of climate change. Recent findings tell us all kinds of stories, including that July was the hottest month ever recorded in human history. Africa continues to carry the burden of rising temperatures, despite contributing the smallest share of global greenhouse gas emissions. We cannot just keep talking about it without doing what is required to fix the problem. This is unfair, but in the long run, playing the blame game is not the answer.
Right.
A more pragmatic approach is for Africa to be a key player in the search for global climate solutions. Africa stands united and should remain so in this and in its position.
We have introduced major policy interventions that have development and climate projection imperatives. Our flagship programs, whether they are the programs for planting for food and jobs, or one village, one dam, or one district, one factory, are all geared towards boosting industrialization and rural development, as well as building our resilience to the impacts of climate change. The strategic focus of the One Village, One Dam initiative, for example, in the northern regions of our country, is to provide all year round access to water to smallholder farmers who practically have no viable livelihood alternatives during the long dry seasons. We're also determined to make natural gas, which we have in abundance, available for the generation of electricity. We placed a ban on illegal mining, the phenomenon we call galamsey.
We placed a ban on illegal mining. A lot of African countries are doing this now, and I like it. Museveni said the same thing. He said, we have uranium and they don't want to give us a good deal. Let our uranium sleep. That's what he said. That's why I call him the grandpa president. He talks like that.
Which was destroying our water bodies, vegetation, and our forests. Some 20,000 young people have been engaged to plant more than 30 million trees in 2 years to create jobs and restore degraded land.
Right.
In this regard, allow me to take this opportunity to commend President Dr. William Ruto for his exceptional leadership of the Committee of African Heads of State and Government on Climate Change. In Rwanda, we want the private sector to play a greater role in building a green economy.
Whoever did this background should not do it again. It's so distracting.
Our strategy is to position ourselves as an attractive destination for international climate financing and investment. That's why the COP27, at that summit, Rwanda launched Ireme Invest, a green investment facility created by the Rwanda Green Fund in partnership with the Development Bank of Rwanda. So far, more than 200 million has been mobilized, US dollars that is, from domestic and international partners, including the European Investment Bank and the Green Climate Fund. We have also been working closely with the International Monetary Fund as a participant in the Resilient and Sustainability Trust, we have access to long-term financing to further integrate climate into our economic policies. This is a good sign that the international community is taking seriously the call to reform our global financial architecture. But there is still room for improvement, our global financial architecture. But there is still room for improvement. In this context, I welcome the discussions held at the Paris Summit for a new global financial pact. The Bridgetown Initiative, spearheaded by Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados, also deserves consideration and serious attention. Any meaningful structural change must favor debt restructuring and lower interest rates, as President William Ruto has so eloquently explained. As chair in office of the Commonwealth, Rwanda supports the development of a multi-dimensional vulnerability index led by the United Nations in partnership with the small island developing states. Gross national income, GNI, does not accurately measure a country's vulnerability to climate change. In any case, small islands and developing states should not be penalized for having higher income levels. Ultimately, what Africa wants is fair and equal partnership, which takes our priorities into account. That is going to be the basis for trust and solidarity. I hope this summit will serve as a good foundation for discussions later in this year at COP 28. I thank you for...
These policy initiatives are already using positive results to the attainment of the SDG goals, particularly the goal of reducing our carbon emissions. Additionally, I've established an advisory group of prominent private sector chief executives who are setting up a $100 million SDGs delivery fund and a $200 million green fund to complement government's efforts at tackling climate change and funding the implementation of the SDGs. Whilst we strive to do our bit to halt climate change at the national level, we expect also a lot to be done at the international level. One major issue of concern to us is the need to streamline access to international climate finance to complement national funding. I believe this forum will throw more light on practical ways to mobilize financial resources to support the implementation of national climate actions, especially how we can guarantee a different future from the past and ensure that the commitments of the developed world towards climate finance, which have not been met in the past, will be met in the future. Excellencies, it is obvious that we have to act swiftly and decisively to mitigate these effects and ensure a sustainable future for generations to come. The impact of climate change, as we know, is not limited to the African continent alone. It is a global issue that affects all of us. Thus, addressing climate change in Africa.
What is Asia saying about this? You know, we heard, I think in a previous video by Konstantin Kisin, he stated that America could fight climate change, Africa could fight climate change, but until countries like, I think he said, China and is it Brazil? Yes, I think those two countries, especially China, their emission is very high. Until countries like that begin to address it as well, then what we do will not be significant. So I like to see what the Asian, if they have like an Asian Union or something like that, I'd like to hear what they're saying about fighting climate change as well.
As President Ruto so forcefully articulated, is a moral and strategic necessity for global climate action. Hopefully, COP28 in Dubai will provide us a concrete roadmap towards that end and ensure a just energy transition for us in Africa. I thank you for your attention.
So that was a good video, good speech delivered by Paul Kagame and Nana Akufo of Rwanda and Ghana respectively. I like the fact that these African countries are beginning to recognize that climate change is a problem. But one thing I like to recommend is we have priorities. I know climate change is a problem and it needs to be prioritized too. But we've seen situations or instances where nations, in attempt to fight climate change, hurts people immediately. I don't know if that makes sense. Like they're looking for the best future, but then they're hurting people, even more people immediately. So I'd like them to look into that and make sure while we are looking forward to a better future, we are not harming people today. I know in governments, a lot of situations are almost utilitarianism, like the lesser evil or the greater good. I know we have to always choose, but try to factor in the people that might get hurt and try to carry everybody along. The Nigerian president was asked the other day what he thinks about climate change. He said we should let the Western people do their thing. That was a funny response, but anyways, it's the end of this one. Talk to me about what you think about that video. Oh, punchline. Smash the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a wonderful day. Peace.